Hello, everyone. This is Holly Chantal, the founder of the Land of Brand, and welcome to the Land of Brand Laboratory, or as we like to call it, the LOBoratory for short. And as you can see, I have my hungry little sidekick here today. Babysitter had a personal emergency, so he is joining us for our webinar today. So I'm just kind of letting you know that we may have some commentary. He's currently eating lunch, so hopefully he will let us finish the webinar. And of course, I have the light behind me, which, just a side note, is terrible for when you're doing webinars, but this is the only place I could put my laptop and still be able to do the webinar while watching him. So please bear with me as we begin today. And if you've never joined us before, this is a weekly webinar, and we meet every Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern time. And we talk about different strategies and experiments in branding. So creating a coaching brand that engages your audience and allows you to share your message with the world and live the life of your dreams. And today we're going to examine your goals for 2015. And I have kind of a different way of setting goals. I've done this presentation a couple times, so if you've been in the LOBoratory for a while, then you may have seen something similar. But basically, we're going to go through a different method for setting goals and kick off a 4-part workshop series where we're actually going to help you build your bucket list for 2015, because we always say this year is going to be your best year yet. So let's just keep getting better and better and better. So I'm going to go ahead and swap over to the presentation. Say bye to Eben. Bye. And you'll notice if you look closely that he has a little mad scientist shirt on, which is very appropriate. All right, so let's swap over. And I'm also only running on one monitor. I'm used to having two, so that will also make things very interesting today. All right, so I think you guys can now see my presentation. All right. So here's just kind of a synopsis of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the history of the bucket list ritual, why I started this kind of new way of goal setting. We're going to talk about giving your business a sense of adventure, setting appropriate and ridiculous goals for yourself, because I believe both are important to creating the most happiness in your life. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do over the next 3 weeks. So what is a bucket list? So technically, or not so technically, but the common definition of a bucket list is basically a list of experiences you want to have before you die, which is very depressing. I mean, that's why create a list of things that you want to do before you die? Why not create a list of things that you just can't wait to do and want to experience right away? And I also believe that shorter timelines are more effective. If we're setting goals of what we're going to do, who knows when you're gonna go? Do you really want to set goals and that you can just put off for next year and next year and next year, or do you want to set goals that you just can't wait to do and give yourself a shorter timeline to complete them? So my version of the bucket list is a little bit different. So instead of setting goals for when I kick it, I set a goal of 100 things to do in the next year. And these are not goals like, make $250,000, get 100 clients, sell this many of this and this many of that. Though those may be on the list, pieces of them might be on the list, but those are really big picture goals. So what I do is I break things down into much smaller pieces, and I make a list of 100 things that makes it easier to check off. So some of these things are super easy, like maybe one of them is hosting a webinar with a baby eating lunch behind me, or some are really difficult, which, that could probably actually fall into both categories. So some are really hard, it might take multiple steps. Some are really easy and can just be checked off on a whim. And then some, quite frankly, are just ridiculous. So here is why you should create a bucket list versus a set of goals. And goals are very broad strokes. You can start with your big picture goals for the next year. And then creating the bucket list is going to allow you to break them into bite-sized pieces. So you can take a bite one at a time and kind of accomplish those big picture goals while, feeling motivated and experiencing the year to the fullest as you go. The other thing about creating a bucket list, because you're breaking things down into such small pieces, it will allow you. I forgot he was such a noisy eater. I thought him having lunch would be a good distraction while I was doing the webinar. So it's going to allow you to put yourself out of your comfort zone just a little at a time. So instead of setting this big honking goal to get 25 new JV partners, you might set bucket list goals of contacting 3 potential partners. And it's also something that doesn't require a long-term commitment. So if I set a goal to contact 3 partners every week and then I miss a week, I'm more likely to kind of just put that goal to the side because I failed instead of continuing and pushing forward. So consistency can be difficult to keep up with, but a one-off check mark might be easier for me to push myself to do because there's no long-term commitment. There's no risk of failure. Either I check it off or don't. You can also create fun items that you might not normally do. So spicing up your business life, spicing up your personal life. I remember when I first did this, it was, let's see, must have been 2009 because I just moved to Philadelphia. And one of my goals was to go on a date because I was recently single and just so happens that year I met my husband. But that was a goal, was to go on a date. And I think I may have on there to kiss a boy just because I thought it was cute. But doing things that are kind of fun or that might push you out of your comfort zone in a personal way is also a great way to live life to the fullest for the whole year. And you can also add silly or easy things that will keep you motivated. So things that have to do with your marketing, things that have to do with your business that are really easy for you to check off so that you can continue to feel accomplished and continue to move forward. And when you have to write 100, you have to get creative. So you're going to have to write fun things and silly and weird things and ridiculous things because you'll be surprised writing 100 things that you're going to do over the next year is a challenge and it's going to take a while. Are you done eating, bud? Or are you just not so into green beans anymore? All right, so here's some inspiration for you, and these are just kind of broken down pieces that could be on your bucket list to give you an idea of what these items look like. So, like I said, you can take big picture goals like getting 25 new JV partners, starting your newsletter, booking speaking gigs, beginning to speak, and break them into small pieces that don't require consistency. It's just a one-off task that you can kind of look at the menu of things that you want to accomplish. And if you have a spare moment, then you check one off. So things like contacting 3 potential partners in one day. So that is as simple as shooting off an email to someone and saying, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I'd like to set up a meeting and see if we might have some synergy and maybe, maybe can help each other out. That easy, takes 5 seconds. And you do 3 of those in a day and you get to check it off your list. And if you do that a few times, you're going to be on your way to that big picture goal of finding 25 new JV partners. Sending your first newsletter. Sending 4 consecutive newsletters. Shoot a video using a foreign accent. That's something kind of fun and silly, but it will allow you to become more comfortable being on video, which is something that I know many people struggle with. So doing something silly like that might seem silly, but it's actually accomplishing a bigger goal. Book a speaking gig. Choreograph a victory dance for after you book a speaking gig that you're going to do every time you do that. Write a blog post that involves pink elephants. This is kind of fun. You write a couple bucket list items that are, incorporating this word or that word into a webinar, kind of like just a weird challenge. And it gives you, something fun to play with and gets you, again, thinking creatively. These weird things may have you look at a problem or something in your business a little bit differently and allow you to grow. Create a process for repurposing your blog posts. Go somewhere tropical with your hard-earned money. Go somewhere tropical for business. Sometimes you can combine these things if you find a conference in a tropical place that you can also take your family. Dress up as if you were somewhere tropical, even if you live in the cold New England like me. So just having fun is really the point here. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Some of these are hard, some of these are easy, and some are business related, some are personal, but they're all interrelated into having a stellar year, both financially as well as personally. So luckily I kept this one short for obvious reasons, because really what we're going to do over the next 3 weeks is tackle each of these areas and brainstorm different bucket list items. So what I want you to do in the next week is I want you to start your list, because like I said, getting to 100 is going to be challenging. It's not like you're just going to be able to sit down and write 100 things you want to do next year. So some of you may be able to do that. I'm not going to say you can't, because then that'll just be a challenge. So go ahead and start writing things you can think of, breaking your big picture goals down into smaller items. And next week, what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at different categories of offerings. So next week, the category is your offerings. So what are you going to sell next year? What products are you going to create? Are you going to do any launches? Those kinds of things. And what bucket list items might go on those big picture goals? Breaking your marketing goals. That's going to be week 2. Break your marketing goals down into listable items. So what are some common marketing goals and what are some things you can be taking to get to those? And then the last is going to be financial. So make a plan for your Uber revenue next year. So how much do you want to make? How many things do you have to sell to make that? And then what are some bucket list items we can do for that? And also I do want you to add a kind of fun and ridiculous personal things too. For the purpose of our laboratory calls, that's not a topic, but I would love to hear some of the things you have over the next couple weeks. So feel free to get creative and get funky with your bucket list, both personally and professionally. And so since this is a series, I'm hoping that you guys will come back each week and that we can get a little bit more dialogue going and hearing about the items that you're putting on your list, things that you're excited about. So next week, plan on choosing a couple that you'll share in the chat. And I'm also going to be asking everyone, how many items you have, so that by the end of the 4 weeks, hopefully that we're all to 100. So I'm going to be doing this too, and I will be sharing with you some of my items. So you figure if we can do 25 a week at the end of the 4 weeks, we will be good to go. And that's right before Thanksgiving. So that gives us a month to really plan on how we're going to do these things next year. So that is all I have for you on your bucket list. It's just kind of an introduction to a system. It's been working for me for, let's say I started this in 2009, so it's been about 5 years. And it's just a really fun way to do this. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to add, please feel free to do that as well. I'm just going to look in the chat really quick. Lilia says he just wants to participate. Kim says he's getting so big and cute. Oh, and you have a beautiful view. Thank you. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions coming in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close down the webinar, but I'll leave the chat open for a few minutes. If anyone has anything they'd like to add or any questions, I will be able to type to you. But I'm going to go ahead and put him down so that he can start wreaking havoc in the living room again. So I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will see you next week.